We're here at the Web 2.0 Summit in San Francisco, and with me I have the founder of Factual. So while people busily type in factual.com, what should they know about it? What's it do?
Well, first of all, Factual is not a consumer service. We offer data and data services to developers.
Okay.
So for the development community, what they should know is building an app is all about bringing the data you need in order to create all the features that the consumers are asking for. A lot of it is about connecting the dots of data. We're making it easier for developers to get access to critical data they need to build those apps.
So what are the most common problems that developers run into when they're trying to work with data?
Well, let's say a developer is building a new system for, let's say, doctor recommendation. The first thing you'd need is a basic database of physicians. Maybe you want to bring in user ratings into your system, but you need to start somewhere. So a developer will go and try to find a vendor for a particular data set, and there's a huge amount of friction right now with locating the vendor, understanding what the quality of the data is, figuring out what their terms of service is. So we're just trying to make this process easier.
Okay, and what are the tools that you're presenting to do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, at the most basic level, we have some really strong data offerings.
Okay.
So when you talk about big data, usually people are talking about the software, the heavy Hadoop, heavy lifting software that enables all of this. We use a lot of that, but when we think big data, we're thinking the big data sets that we can just provide directly to you. So what people have been coming to us in droves for is our global place database. It's this huge database of 40 million hotels, restaurants, many other categories of places of interest. And it's very easy to use. It goes across 44 countries and growing. Easy to use by download or via API, however the developer wants to work.
Okay, and where did all that place data come from originally?
That's a great question. So that's kind of our secret sauce. Not so secret because I'm willing to talk
Sure,
about
and
it.
you'll be on the YouTube soon.
Right. So there's two main dimensions of what makes our model and our abilities unique. One is what's particularly powerful is this open data model. So in fact, this might sound counterintuitive, but a lot of our data comes from our customers. We partner with companies and we give them huge incentive by reducing our prices oftentimes to zero if they're willing to give us all the data they have about places. So a small startup might have been starting to work on something, collecting data, maybe from user-generated content. We're incentivizing them to give us all of those streams of data, a lot of times in real time. And that gives us a huge advantage because at the end of the day, it's a data game. Whoever has access to the most, regardless of your algorithms, is probably going to be able to then offer the highest quality data.
So is it having access to the most data or being able to produce the most actionable insights from it?
That certainly knowing what to do with it once you have it is also important. So I guess that's a good segue to the second thing that we do well, which is what kind of algorithmic technology can you apply to all these streams of data. There's other companies that do things like analytics and visualization. What we're good is just sifting correct information from incorrect. So
Okay.
it's that there's, for example, if you want to figure out the right phone number for a restaurant, well, it helps to be able to comb the web, to look at that restaurant's homepage, to analyze it, to extract information, to normalize it, to look for all sorts of validating points of reference. Those are the kinds of approaches we use in order to clean it all up and, like you said, provide an actionable, usable database that the developer can just snap in.
So you mentioned a key phrase, open data, something that I've written and followed pretty carefully in my open government world, where that is sort of a pillar of that direction. What do you see happening in that space, and what's changed in the last 2 or 3 years in the open data world, and how is Factual playing a role?
Well, it's been really exciting to watch the government 2.0, the open data, it to unfold and the awareness to be increased about how important and central it is for the government to provide these services at a basic level so that people can interact with it, not just at a very high level, but from the level of developers that are connecting to APIs and using data in ways that maybe weren't even anticipated, that add new value. So that's great, but just the awareness is important. I think from our standpoint, the question is, how can other silos of data be broken, in effect? And one of the ways is to incentivize companies to share siloed data, whereas maybe a lot of companies saw their certain data sets as assets. increasingly companies are realizing that a data set, if it doesn't have any private, let's say it doesn't have any private information, and it's, let's say, not as good as some of the competitive data sets, similar data sets, it's really more of a liability. They have to maintain it, and it doesn't offer any unique advantage. They might as well share that with us and help, and then in exchange, we're enriching and augmenting their data. So I think that's the transformation that's unfolding.
It's really interesting to watch, and certainly, as I've talked with some members of your company in the context of health data, that's a very interesting space. And last question, there's a concept that's been shared here and there called data liquidity.
Right.
What is that, and what does it mean in terms of the big data world that we're now marching into? Whether you want to call it Web 3.0 and use a buzzword, or think about the semantic web, use another one out there.
Right.
But what does data liquidity mean, and what should developers know about it?
Right. It's a good question, and I hope I can do a good job answering it since I'm talking about it in about 2 hours. But ultimately, what it means is that any unit of data has value to the world, and it also and ultimately it can command a market price. Now, a totally separate question is ownership and control. So should a third party like Facebook be allowed to sell your data at a market price? That's a different issue, and that has to be addressed as well. But once those issues are resolved, who owns and who has control of data, once the owner should have the ability to post. There should be an eBay of data where the owner can post this data and allow lots of other innovation to happen on top of it. That fluidity, that liquidity of data will usher in a whole new age of innovation, because so many dots will be connectable that aren't today, all with the owner's permission.
All right, well, I think that was a fine answer. Thank you very much. It's a great place to end, and good luck on your talk. For people who watch on YouTube, of course, the talk itself will be available sometime later today or tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Alex. Appreciate it.